Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Want to show you my movie collection today, in particular, video game movies. Now, these are movies that are based on specific games, movies where video games sort of play a thematic role, or where one video game is spotlighted. And these are movies that are based on a particular game, all kinds of video game related movies. Now, my latest pickup is The Wizard. I love the box art for this, and it's just really neat. It's loaded down with special features, and as many of you know, The Wizard is not a great movie, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's basically a 1.5 hour commercial for Super Mario Brothers 3 and the Power Glove and Nintendo in general, but I think it's a lot of fun. The dialogue is kind of cheesy at times, and they don't really do the research specifically. Like Fred Savage character is all excited about another character, a video game whiz, scoring 50,000 on Double Dragon. That's really not a big deal. If you've played the game before, you know that. Now, I already had The Wizard on DVD, but the Blu-ray was irresistible, and it's a beautiful print. Love it, and I love the special features. Cloak and Dagger, one of my favorite gaming-related movies. It's set in San Antonio. I live in Fort Worth, so I think it's kind of neat that it's in Texas. And it's just a great sort of mystery adventure movie. And it's actually a little edgy for a gaming movie starring the kid from E.T. But Cloak and Dagger is a lot of fun, and I love the old video game store in the movie and the fact that an Atari 5200 cartridge, of all things, plays a prominent role. Pixels was a little disappointing because it's just not as funny as it could be, but I love the special effects and the attacking video game characters and stuff, and it definitely has its moments. I found it on DVD for a couple of bucks, so I grabbed it. I didn't want to pay full price for it when it came out, but pretty good value for $2. Not a great movie. If you've seen it once, going forward, you might just want to fast forward to some of the special effects scenes because it does have some really cool gaming scenes, including a really huge Donkey Kong segment that's just really awesome. Now, Video Games the Movie, let me tell you about some disappointment I have with this movie. Now, it's a pretty well-produced gaming documentary, but I was actually interviewed for this movie about the ColecoVision along with actors from the Scrubs films, but our segment was deleted for time. And that's really disappointing, not only because I think it would be cool to be in the movie, but also because the ColecoVision isn't even hardly mentioned in the movie. And what happened was the movie covers the entire video game history, supposedly, but at an hour and a half, it just can't cover it all. It's still fun to watch and it's slickly produced, but I'm disappointed that I wasn't in it. From the same studios as Video Games the Movie, Media Juice, they did Unlocked. This sucker is just loaded down with content, including interviews of famous gamers who like some video games. Actors and actresses and things of that nature. People of that nature, I should say. Now, The Bits of Yesterday is kind of interesting. It's about, collecting old video games. And I actually wrote the foreword, the liner notes to this movie. Just talking about, collecting physical media. There you go, right there. So I was honored to write that. And that's a really fun documentary on collecting games. Now, I usually watch the Game Chasers on YouTube, but I do have seasons 1 and seasons 2. It's a fun show. Gets a little silly at times, but that's how they want it to be. And I really have fun watching their adventures game chasing. I've got at a convention one time, my son wanted this one, when he was younger. Got it signed by Billy and Jay. Pretty awesome. Video Games Live, featuring my buddy Tommy Tallarico. The world record-holding Tommy Tallarico, who has worked on more video games than anyone else. And his Video Games Live concerts are just excellent. And he plays guitar and fronts this orchestra that does gaming music with projections of gameplay footage in the background. If you ever get a chance to go, if it comes to your city, go for it. The Blu-ray was really nice. You can crank it up in the comfort of your home. Video Game History by my buddy Earl Green. Now, Grandma's Boy is not really a video game movie per se, but gaming does play a prominent role, and you got to love that they play Frog Bog for the Intellivision in the movie. That's actually a prominent scene, so you got to love it for that alone. Now, Keith Apicary, if you don't know who he is, he does some jackass stunts at gaming conventions, and that's not necessarily my thing all the time, but he is hilarious. And his stunts and humor and, walking around with video game peripherals hung around his body and just doing crazy stunts at gaming conventions in his neighborhood or whatever. He's actually hilarious, and I've met him at Screw Attack Gaming Convention back in the day, and he's just as wacky in person as he is in his videos. I don't have a whole lot of video game movies based on specific games like Alone in the Dark or Silent Hill or Resident Evil. Those usually aren't very good, but I do like Mortal Kombat. And I've had the DVD for a while, but when I saw the Blu-ray for just $3 at Half Price Books, had to grab it. One of the better video game movies that are actually, the storyline and everything is actually based around a game. Wreck-It Ralph, one of my favorite video game-based movies of all time. Ready Player One, the movie, is fun. It can be a little bit of a mess at times, and they don't really adhere to the book. There's a lot of differences, which can be interesting. One particular difference I found really fascinating and just kind of odd was the Shining sequence, based on the old Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick movie. Crazy. The Last Starfighter, my favorite video game movie, one of my 2 or 3 favorites of all time. I love Catherine Mary Stewart, and I've had the VHS for a long time. I love the art, and I'm going to hang on to that even though I have it on Blu-ray now. And it's a really cool movie. It rips off Star Wars, in terms of the plot, but it's a lot of fun. And the special effects really pop in Blu-ray. They hold up very well. Excellent 80s movie. Now, Tron, of course, I have Tron. And I've got I love the old Disney clamshell white case. Beautiful art on that. I just love collecting VHS. But of course, I had to get the DVD when it came out because it is loaded with features and has a good, really looks good, better than the VHS. And you can actually watch Tron on Disney Plus in high def. So I'd recommend doing that if you've got Disney Plus. I do have Tron Legacy as well, the sequel to Tron, and I found it to be okay. It has its moments. Let's go over here to some documentaries. The King of Kong is sort of infamous for being unfaithful to the source material, to what actually happened with, the quest for the Donkey Kong high score. But it's a lot of fun, and they really play it up for Hollywood. It's got the drama, and it's a fictional version of what really happened as Steve Wiebe and Billy Mitchell battle it out to be the King of Kong. Walter Day is prominently featured in the movie. I do have it signed by Walter and Billy, and it's just a fun movie. Even if it plays, a lot of Hollywood films, even documentaries, play with the facts just to sort of, up the drama. So if you know that going in, you'll have a good time. Now, one that's more down to earth and factual is Man vs. Snake. This is about Tim McVeigh, not that guy, but the arcade gamer who was just excellent at Nibbler and still is and does marathon runs. This is a heartwarming documentary about him and his wife and just what that game, Nibbler, means to his family. Now, before I saw this movie, I had heard of Nibbler, of course, because this is kind of what I do, is study old school games and history and everything. I had heard of it, but I'd never played it because it was not at any of the arcades back in the day. But pretty recently, within the last year, they had Nibbler at Free Play Arcade in Arlington, and that's near where I live in Fort Worth, Texas. And so I played it, and I wasn't great at it, and I definitely can't play it for hours like Tim can. So really fun documentary. Another good one is King of the Arcades with Richie Knuckles. He's another high score champion, and it just shows the pains he goes through to restore arcade games. And he has an arcade as a business, and he's an interesting guy. Really energetic, really fun, and we've done a convention together. A good guy that I've had some fun with, just hanging out at arcade expos and whatnot. And I have my signed edition of The King of Arcades as well, with extra footage. And The King of Arcades was directed by Sean Tiedemann, a friend of mine who's done stories for some of my books, like the SNES Omnibus and NES Omnibus. Joysticks. Now here's an interesting movie. I've actually met the director, Graydon Clark, at a retro gaming convention. Really great guy. And so I got my copy of Joystick signed by him. It's a crude movie. It's sort of like an 80s trashy comedy. And it's It's a good bad movie, and I have a blast every time I watch it. And I watched it not too long ago on Amazon Prime in high def. I don't know if it's still streaming, but it is available on DVD. And Super Mario Brothers. This is a horrible movie. I know some people like it, but it's just garbage. It's a mess. And I took my niece and nephew, my girlfriend, and now my wife. Back in the day, we took my niece and nephew, Chris and Kara, to see this at the movies. My nephew kind of liked it because he was just a 10-year-old boy or whatever. And my niece didn't care for it. And my now wife and I just hated it. It's awful. But we did have a fun that day because we went back to my wife's house at the time, or her apartment. And, well, she was my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. Whatever, you get the idea. We went and, had ice cream sundaes after. And that was definitely the highlight of the day. Just horribly miscast movie. It just makes a mess. It's not cute and fun like a Mario movie should be. But anyway, watch it because if you just want to see a train wreck. Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. Now, it's more about, the internet than it is video games, but still a lot of fun, still great animation. The Gaming Historian Blu-ray. So far, this is the only Blu-ray that he's put out, but many of you know Norm is a prominent YouTuber, tons of subscribers, does basically mini documentaries. Some people call him the Ken Burns of video games, and he earns that title because his stuff is really highly polished, really nicely produced. Norm is a great guy. We did a panel together at a convention in Oklahoma back in the day, so I recommend that. And I have Donkey Kong Country, the Legend of the Crystal Coconut on VHS and DVD. My son Ryan really enjoyed this, watching this back in the day. Now, there's a couple of others here that are just sort of loosely related. Tilt is a pinball movie. It's a fictional movie with a young Brooke Shields as a pinball wizard of sorts, and a guy takes her from town to town, and she's a pinball shark, and she wins a lot of money. And this is actually a pretty hard to find, oversized box VHS, and I don't think it's been released on DVD. Let me know in the comments if it has. I haven't really checked on it lately. And I'm pretty sure it's not on Blu-ray or streaming or anything. But it's a hard movie to find, but I really enjoy it. Another one is The History of Pinball Special Edition. I'm not sure if this is on DVD. You can check it out if it is. But what's great about this, it shows a lot of the innovations, like the first flippers, the first bumpers, the first, of different kinds of targets, different pinball innovations, the first, like multi-level table and all that kind of stuff. Just shows pinball innovations throughout history. Anyway, guys, this has been an overview of my gaming movie collection. I hope you enjoyed it. And I need to get back and watch some of these Wizard special features. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite video game movie of all time? I would really appreciate it. Thanks for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.